Hey guys, what's up? It's me again. Here with my next little vlog on my summer for this week. So I was tasked with playing the Stanley Parable in relation to what I discussed last week. Uh, s- I'm gonna be honest, Stanley Parable is a game that I've heard a lot about, and it was at first a game that I really didn't have much interest in playing because I'm not really a big fan of. Because I heard it described to me as like a game that's essentially a commentary on choices in video games and stuff, and I usually have a tendency to really be kind of wary about that because that's kind of how I heard a lot of the game Spec Ops: The Line described to me as, and I played it, and to be honest, a lot of it I kind of some of the themes presented in that game were to be flat out honest, I thought pretentious garbage, but that's it's not really so much. But I'm not talking about that now. Stanley Parable. It was I was surprised at how much I ended up actually liking it. It was it was a very fun game overall. I laughed quite a few times. I definitely felt a surge of emotions while I was playing through it. Some of which was confusion, other was mild anger, and some was just this kind of sense of awe that really something that was so simple could be taken to tell really what was a very really in a way kind of a very compelling commentary on like kind of choices and how it goes and how choices work with that. But I played it one session, my one gaming session. I played it for about maybe an hour or so, and apparently in that time, from what I understood, at least talking with some of my friends who were more familiar with it, I apparently got at least four endings in my one session of about an hour playthrough. The first ending that I got was the one where it's revealed that it's you go to for those. Well, I mean, I got assigned to play it, so I'm sure I'm sure people who are watching this have probably played it. But for those who haven't, spoilers, just letting you know. Uh, the first one that I got was the one about Stanley's wife, who turns out to be a mannequin, and then you just have to keep constantly hitting buttons as the narrator essentially is degrading you throughout the entire ending sequence. Another, I thought that was really interesting. That really like the idea of like that you're playing as a character who just essentially just pushes buttons. And really honestly kind of an interesting critique too on the idea of office work and corporations work. Really just kind of like the mundane, like just another gear in the machine kind of type thing. That was really interesting, especially with the way that ending goes, which was ironic considering that I was basically trying to do as much as I could that first playthrough to not to essentially just not do what the narrator was telling me to do. So, and apparently I got a very bad ending because of that, which is going to be a running theme with this. The next one that I got was one where I ended up in a monitor room where I came to the monitor room like maybe four or five times, and that was the one with the adventure line. And it just kind of, and especially to the point where the narrator started to realize, wait, no, I don't want to forget all this. So that was kind of an interesting thing that I thought in regard with that, to where is the narrator just as much of a slave to all of this as I am? Like, that was really interesting to think about with that, or at least that's what my initial thoughts were. I'm probably gonna play the game a couple more times and actually fully get that down. Um, I also got another one too where Stanley just lost his mind and then ended up dead on the sidewalk because he wasn't sure if he was in a dream or not. That was interesting. Also, and then finally the last ending that I got before I actually stopped my PlayStation was the one where you actually work your way through and you finally manage to get to the mind control machine, and I chose to turn it off. Doors opened, and I walked out. And I did feel that that was actually really interesting. That was the one play session. That was the one play session of me going through the game to where I played it enough times, I played it enough times to where I basically just followed the narrator. I did what the narrator was asking me to do the whole well, saying I was doing the whole time, and just chose to do that. So it was so it was kind of interesting in that I was basically like doing what I was told, but then but then it actually led me enough to where I had an actual choice in the matter, and like a very significant choice. So it's almost like following the path can eventually lead you to something that's really that just because you have to follow a path doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lead you to like whatever predetermined destination. I mean, you can still like have. I mean, you'll get to like a physical destination, but at the same time, you also like the actual like. I'm going slightly pretentious here a little bit, considering like what I said earlier, but it's almost as if the physical destination is predetermined, but the spiritual, I guess, destination really isn't, if that really makes any sense. I'm probably just rambling at this point, but to go along with like what I discussed last week, again, those same 5 things that I mentioned, sense of reality, proximity, unexpectedness, arousal, and local variables. My sense of reality was warped the whole time I was playing that game. Like, I wasn't sure what was going on, what I had to do. There was actually a point where I was clicking on doors, and then apparently I had to go check a copier or something, a copier that I couldn't get to for apparently an achievement. So I'm like, okay, so I'm assuming that was also a commentary on achievements in gaming in general, which, to be honest, I'll try to go for some, as a side tangent, I'll try to go for some achievements in games, but if there's some, I'll just look at them and go like, that is so not worth it, and I would never probably actually do that in a game, so I'm not even going to bother. Just with that. The proximity aspect, I I felt for the guy. Like, I honestly, I mean, I've worked in situations like that before where and just been with classes work I've been in situations like that where I just feel like what I'm doing doesn't matter, where it's just me just doing a task that I don't feel like is going to really make a difference in the long run, and I just don't feel like I'm making a difference or that anyone really cares about it. So that was, and I'm sure a lot of people could probably sympathize with that, and that was very interesting to think about with regards to proximity. Unexpectedness, I wasn't expecting I honestly wasn't expecting half of the stuff that happened in that. The adventure line, I wasn't expecting to all of a sudden do this thing at one point where it like was going all around in like a spiral pattern all over the wall. Uh, that took me off guard, and I'm like, so is the adventure line on my side now or something? And which that also went along with the uh, confusion ending. That's what it was called. Where I got the confusion, where I had been playing the confusion ending for about 16 minutes, at least according to the counter, the time counter that I ran into. So that was good. Arousal. It definitely aroused emotions in me. Like, especially to the point where the narrator at one point just started playing music, and that got annoying. It just all of a sudden started playing music, and then actually the first ending I got where like the mannequin just kind of jumps in front of you like some stupid jump scare thing, and it was about at that point where I immediately decided, after this narrator, I'm gonna do whatever I can. And then as it went on, I kind of started feeling a little bit more like getting more of a connection with him and stuff, where it kind of got to the point where I wasn't like just outwardly being antagonistic towards him and just doing the opposite of what he did. So that was interesting. The amounts of emotions that it provoked in me to when playing the game. So it's very interesting. Uh, the variables. There was definitely a pretty good sense of feedback and effort in what I was doing. Like, there were times where I was going through it where I was just really like that first playthrough that I did, I was just really bored, and I just wasn't sure what I was just walking around, not sure what I was supposed to do, and then like feeling like I couldn't move on. And then I got to the when I was doing the achievement thing at first, and then I got to the point where I kind of got frustrated and I was just wandering around, and then for some reason I was able to move on. It was just like, and that was about the point. I think that was honestly about the point where like I first started. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do whatever I can to mess with this guy and just not do anything, and then it came back to bite me in the ass, and there you go. But yeah, it was different. It was a very different, very interesting experience that I think is something that I don't know. I don't see a lot of games nowadays that are like just interactive stories like that in the way that it was, where it's just kind of like you're just experiencing a story and you can kind of like a choose your own adventure kind of type story. I don't see things like that often, and this was a game that I think did it pretty well, and I was very impressed by that. But yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything with that. So I'm probably definitely, I'm gonna keep playing soon. But anyways, so thanks for listening to my yet again 11-minute videos. I'm very sorry. I'm really gonna try to keep these down, try to cut these down a little bit if I can. But anyways, guys, have a good night. Keep gaming, and see you later.